Hi guys, I'm back. This is Eunjae came for Relearn to Share. And from today, we'll dive into the political philosophy of different philosophers per lecture. And the topic for today's lecture is Plato and Socrates, a Nation. Now, Socrates and Plato were both philosophers from the ancient Greek civilization. The understanding of the concept of politics in ancient Greece can be represented by the city-state and the political ruling systems that each state held. And during the process of arguing about the significance of politics, the bounds of participants in politics, and more, these arguments were presented as the concept of justice, and this concept of justice was essential for the city-states to move on from the archaic age of civilization to the classic period. And many people, including philosophers, poets, and lawmakers, interpreted the concept of justice as a social structure beneficial to all. Before we take a look at the theory of Plato, I would like to give you a little idea on how Socrates, Plato's teacher, talked about ethics and politics. Socrates himself did not write any books, nor did he leave documented ideas of his theories. And it was Plato who gave us the Dialogues of Socrates as a documented book. As long as we can know, Socrates was the first philosopher who considered ethics as a distinct area of study. For Socrates, the efforts to define the concept of ethics and politics led to the concerns on what is the best way to live. And this processing of knowledge led Socrates to practice rhetoric and judgment, which gave life to the political institutions of Athens, including the bodies like the law courts and the assembly. The theories of Socrates on politics can be observed in the 10 books of the Republic. The Republic holds the dialogue of Socrates and a group of others, while they casually argue about the definitions of justice, an ideal form of government, and more. What is quite distinctive and unique about Socrates' ideas on his ideal state is that he presents a unique form of a ruler. As the important decisions that ruled the state came from the ruler, he brought up the idea of a philosopher king. This is, he explained, that in his ideal state, the ruler is the one who is highly educated, has the desire to learn, and has achieved the understanding of good that should govern the state. Other than the philosopher king, there are two more types of citizens that Socrates defined: the artisans and the auxiliaries. Artisans are the type of people who are dominated by one's own desires and instincts, and auxiliaries were the people who had the courage to protect the state from outer forces and were ruled by spiritual values within themselves. Socrates explained that philosopher kings, artisans, and auxiliaries had their own distinct natures, which represents one's soul, appetite, and reason. Let's take a look at the general chronology of Plato's life. Plato was born around 428 BC in Athens with two brothers and a sister. And in 399 BC, the trial and execution of Plato's teacher, Socrates, took place. Now, there are three periods in Plato's life of his literary activities. The first period was from 399 to 390 BC, when he wrote books like The Apology, which deals with the claims of Socrates in his trial, Protagoras, which is a dialogue that mainly deals with the argument between Socrates and another philosopher named Protagoras, and other documents. The second period is from 388 to 367 BC, when the famous book Republic, Symposium, and other books were produced. The third and the last period is from 360 to about 348 BC, when he wrote the book The Laws and more. And then Plato died in 347 BC. Plato introduces the political structures and laws of his ideal city, Magnesia, in his book The Laws. About 10 miles apart from the sea in a part of Crete, locates his ideal city, Magnesia. With its locational advantages, Magnesia is rich in resources, but not enough to export. The city's number of households remains permanently at 5,040, and immigration and emigration policies were created to avoid population excess and shortage. Two plots of land, one nearer to the city center and one nearer to the borders, is given to each household. And this is for the households to be equally productive to be able to support life for the household's members. Not so luxurious, but just comfortable enough. Now let's take a look at the definition of citizens in Magnesia. Most of the population in Magnesia are not citizens. Many of them are slaves, both public and private, and they are not recognized as citizens. Temporary and resident foreigners are also part of the population, and they are allowed to stay in Magnesia for at most 20 years. Both the slaves and the foreigners contribute highly to the economy of the city, as they are the ones who are responsible or at the center of the trades, production, and are those who take on jobs that are considered menial to citizens. Although it is true that it is citizens who mostly are holders and heads of households, but the city itself does not have restrictions on citizenship. Also, owning land is not a mandatory condition on citizenship. We also call the sons and inheritors of landowners also called citizens. And they are capable of serving the military at the age of 20 and can vote in elections and can be an officer at the age of 30. However, they cannot inherit the lands until their father dies. What is also quite unique about citizenship in Magnesia is that women were also allowed to vote, have political offices, and are counted as citizens. Now let's move on to the political offices in Magnesia. There are about 5 main offices in Magnesia. They are the Assembly, the Council, the Guardians of the Laws, the Courts, and the Nocturnal Council. The Assembly has the central electoral authority. The Assembly is made up of citizens who have served or are serving in the military. Their role is to manage the election of the city's officers and magistrates. Other functions that the Assembly is responsible for are judging offenses against the public, extending the term of residences, and passing on changes within the laws, and more. Next, we will move on to the Council. 90 members who have been elected from each property class with a total of 360 members compose the Council. Both men and women are qualified to become a member of the Council, and men are eligible from the age of 30 and women from the age of 40. Every member of the Council serves for 1 year each. They supervise elections, welcome foreign ambassadors, call and dismiss the Assembly, and more. The guardians of the laws are composed of 37 citizens, especially those of at least 50 who had served from the time of their election. They are assigned to the general task of supervising magistrates and are expected to bring appropriate cases to the attention of the proper officials. They exercise their powers over citizens in general, and they are in charge of finding those with excessive spending, confirm warrants to travel abroad, supervise the care of orphans, and more. They also take different judicial roles, especially in cases that involve family, property, and the abuse of laws. And their one of the most important role is the revision and improvement of laws. Today, we took a look at political theories, especially the ideal states drawn by the most famous and fundamental philosophers, Socrates and Plato. Socrates' ideal state had a unique type of ruler, the philosopher king, and the ideal state of Plato already had a well-structured political offices similar to the current systems. Hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in my next video. Bye!